Hello, everyone, anyone who's joined. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your Wednesday evening if you're in Australia, or whatever time of day for you it is if you're somewhere around the world. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and listen to me speak, and good on you for having a look at how you can advance your career. So just wanted to say thank you again. I do really appreciate you taking the time. Please leave any questions or comments you have in the chat. They'll come up on my screen over here and I'll be able to see them. So first of all, I'll give you a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about today. And then I'll let you know how to contact me. And then I'll give you a few little details about the giveaway that I'm doing this evening. So in today's workshop, I'm going to give you 3 lessons that I've learned, and I'll go into them shortly. But before that, I'll give you the background information on me. And then after that, I will get straight into the 3 lessons in today's workshop. Don't forget, I'm doing a giveaway. So the giveaway for that is my 12-week one-on-one career coaching course. So assuming at least one person answers the question right today, I will give away that 12-week coaching course, and I'll sign you up at the end. The question is in the middle of the workshop, and we'll choose who wins at the end. I'll use a random number generator if there's more than one right answer, and we'll see who wins. All right, let's get cracking. Let's get straight into it. Okay, so some background about me. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Dan. I've been working in the defense and aerospace industry for almost 20 years now. And my goal here today, this evening, is to show you how you can learn from my experiences and my failures instead of having to go through them on your own. Save yourself some time and some effort. So about me, so I dropped out of uni after my first year of uni, and I decided to do an apprenticeship in aircraft maintenance engineering. And that's really how my career began. And it's been a long road. So early in my career, I went through lots of different technical positions, and I've been in senior management or executive roles since 2017. I've been mentoring and coaching others, both formally and informally, all throughout my career. And I really only do it because I actually really love it. Helping people get past their career roadblocks and achieve their goals it feels really good, and it hits different. It's really cool, and I really enjoy it. So for anyone out there that wants to speak one-on-one with me, I've left a link in the chat, so you can use that link if you want to connect up and ask me any questions. All right, so enough about me. We'll get into the workshop. Okay, so first lesson. Hard work is not enough. So keeping your head down, working hard, that's not going to work for you if you want to advance your career quicker than the average person. So sure, working hard is worthwhile, and it's a critical part of getting the opportunities that you need in order to progress. But by itself, hard work is just not enough. So I'm sure all of you out there have heard something similar to what I did when I was growing up from my parents and from teachers at school. Work hard, learn, and you'll succeed. Or even worse, if you didn't succeed, it's because you didn't work hard enough. So the problem with this is that, to me at least, and hopefully to you, it's painfully obvious that this just isn't true. There are mountains and mountains of people out there who work really hard. But do you think they're succeeding? Well, at least for some of them, arguably not. So the issue is not about the hard work itself. It's with the idea that hard work is everything that you need in order to succeed. And this, honestly, it couldn't really be further from the truth. So I learned this one pretty slowly. So my advice is don't do what I did. Get ahead of the pack and learn this as early in your career as you can. Or if you're not early in your career, just learn it the sooner the better. The sooner you can get onto this, the better you'll be. So I'll give you a little story about where I was. So I was working at the air-to-air refueling tanker flight simulation training center, which ended up being my last ever technical role before I moved into management. So by this point in my career, I already had 7 years of experience when I started this job. And so I had 7 years of experience under my belt. So I wouldn't classify myself as a newbie, really, by any measure. But I was definitely still undereducated in what was needed to progress me to my career goals. At the time, my career goal was to step into a maintenance manager role, which was basically one step up from the role that I was in at the time. So up until this point in time, I had been focusing really strongly on my technical and other hard skills. And I was working really hard to become the best at what I did. And arguably, I would say that I achieved that. I achieved that goal. But the problem is that was the wrong goal to be focusing on. What I wasn't working hard on was promoting myself as an ideal or the ideal person to take a step up into management, which was my actual goal that I wasn't working towards. So what I also wasn't doing at that point in my career was networking in my industry, especially networking in my industry outside of my own workplace and the company that I was working with at the time. So these two major oversights led to the following things for me. By not actively promoting myself within the company that I was in, I was not being seen widely within the business that I was ready to take the step into management. I wasn't front of mind for the decision makers and the opportunity creators. Also, by not actively networking within my industry outside of my business, I was doing myself a huge disservice. I was missing out on even more opportunities that were out there, and I just didn't hear about them because I wasn't talking to people. Further to this, by not having a broad network, because I didn't network within my industry, I was also not self-promoting in that wider network, which is kind of a double whammy. It hits twice as hard. And so that old saying that some of us, well, most of the people on here will have heard before, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That saying has a lot of merit, but it's not 100% true in my view. You need both. You need a lot of what, and you need a lot of who if you want to succeed. It's the what you know. Those are your skills and capabilities. That's the value that you can bring to a business as an employee, as someone who's working there. But then the who you know, that is where you will open up access to opportunities. So that comes in the form both of finding out about the opportunities and also for being considered for those opportunities once they become available. Both of these are very, very powerful agents to help you progress your career more quickly. So one of the biggest roadblocks that I see within my coaching clients to doing these things is I really don't like networking, or I hate making a big deal out of myself. I don't like talking myself up. And I can appreciate those things. I think a lot of us have those feelings when we start looking at these kind of things. So there are a couple of ways to get past these barriers. And I'll run you through a few now. So first option, not my favorite option, but it works. Just grin and bear it, hate it, dislike it, but do it anyway. Feel scared, but do it anyway. Basically, brute force your way towards your goals by doing things that you don't like. So the advantage with this is that you get to flex your self-control muscles by doing it, which is a really valuable skill to bring to any job in the future. The drawback is that it's really hard to do. If you've ever tried to consistently do stuff that you really don't like, you'll know exactly what I mean. And it's really, really, really hard to do it consistently. And you really only get the results by consistently doing these things. Doing it once is not really going to help. It's showing up consistently and getting the reps in. So the second option about getting past those barriers is to find a way to do these things that doesn't give you the ick or make you feel uncomfortable. So for self-promotion, this, I would say, one of your best ways to do this is to start out with less extreme ways of self-promotion, ones that you can be a bit more comfortable with. So you can do this through ways like one-on-one conversations where you ask for feedback and then talk through your experiences. That way it's more of a conversation and less of a look at me, you know, I'm so good, which is where I think a lot of people get uncomfortable. So this can be highly effective if you're having the right conversation with the right person at the right time. Those are three pretty big important things that are not necessarily easy to get all done at the same time. So like all things in life, you'll find that the more you do these self-promoting activities, the easier they'll get. And in time, you'll be able to be more out there, more obvious with your self-promotion activities. For networking, a way to start out, you could choose to attend in-person networking events with a group of people that you already know, for instance. So you might organize to go to an event with some of the people that you work with, some of your colleagues. And this will give you an advantage, and that it'll take the edge off that feeling of discomfort because you already have a familiarity with some of the people that you are there with. And being around familiar people, even in a room, if the room's big and full of a couple of hundred people and you're with three others, that'll really give you that familiarity and comfort that will help you be able to do that more easily and not just forget about it entirely and don't go. So if you can achieve things these ways, there are other strategies, but we'll run out of time if we go through all of them. So if you can use these to increase your capabilities or increase your consistency of self-promotion and networking, it means you'll get a taste for how those kind of things work. And with most things in life, and with this, it's no different. If you create a familiarity with, say, the networking or the familiarity or the consistency of self-promotion, you will become more comfortable with those things. And as you get more comfortable, they'll just get easier to do. There are, of course, other ways to network. You can do in-person networking at related functions like conferences or training sessions. And of course, everyone who's watching this now knows you can use LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's great. I'm obviously a big fan of LinkedIn, and I think it's a great platform, but it requires kind of a different strategy to your in-person networking. So you really do have to use LinkedIn in the right way if you want to get the most out of it. That being said, I would say doing anything on LinkedIn is better than doing nothing. So in terms of using LinkedIn the right way for networking, I'll do probably a separate workshop on that in the future. If anyone's interested, maybe just let me know. You can DM me or leave a comment or something. If there's enough people interested in that, I'll do a whole workshop on it. But yeah, it's important to get it right, but it's more important to give it a go. So if you don't get it right, you're doing 10 times more than someone who doesn't even try. So the important lesson I learned, or that I would like to pass on, I guess, with this, is that lots and lots of people out there work really, really hard, but nowhere near as many of them are successful. So hard work is not even the minimum standard. It's just something that you have to have or have to do to get started to have any chance at all. So you'll see my little equation down the bottom there. Hard work plus networking plus self-promotion equals a much higher chance of success. So in a nutshell, what your parents and teachers told you growing up wasn't so much bad advice as it was incomplete advice. Working hard and improving your skills are valuable things to do, and you'll need them to get ahead. But by themselves, they will not get you ahead in your career. Reminder to leave comments or questions in the chat if you have anything. I'll make sure I get to them at the end. So You can leave anything in the chat that you like. Okay, so next lesson. Lesson 2. Rigid plans do not work. So having a strict career plan, you might say, another word for rigid, they just won't work. So I'm sure we've all heard about the idea of planning and goal setting. And of course, how will you ever achieve anything if you don't know what you're setting out to achieve? And yeah, look, I fully agree with that. And there is a reason why pretty much every major corporation around the whole world runs annual goal setting and runs through plans and ways to get towards those goals. So it is worth doing. But then you've made the plan and you think, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and put together this plan, and then so I can follow it, and then it's going to get me everything I want. And this is where you'd be going wrong. So the problem with this is that, so a detailed plan, so where you've planned every single step out along the way, it won't survive the first fork in the road. And you'll be left either holding onto a plan that you really can no longer execute and it doesn't work, or you'll be trying to force the execution of that old plan into a new situation, and that can be even worse. So both of these outcomes means that you're not going to be having a good time and things will just feel terrible. You'll feel like you're going backwards, or, well, you feel like you're stagnant at least, but worst case, you'll feel like you're going backwards. So there are a few more successful strategies when it comes to career planning, and I'm going to tell you about 3. So the first more successful strategy for planning is planning only for the next step, but having a long-term direction as part of your goal and your thinking, but always keeping an open mind for opportunities that will arise unexpectedly. In the same light, it's also important to have contingencies in place in case of things like redundancies or other job loss situations that are out of your control. If you work in a large corporate company right now, there are lots of them that are restructuring. They are making people redundant, and there are jobs that are going away right now. So being prepared for these things is always worthwhile, even though you don't want it to happen to you. And even if you're like me, you'd probably prefer to ignore the potential of that, but it's always a possibility. So being prepared for it will help you if it does eventuate. Second better strategy is to put together what I call a scenario plan, where you play out several possibilities along the way at each change point within your career. So this is still risky, I feel, and especially risky if you don't keep an open mind to unexpected opportunities. So I would recommend the first option over this option for sure. The third better option is don't plan at all. Don't put together a plan, but set more of a direction. Set long-term goals. Think about roughly where you would like to be and what you would like to do. So this one can work extremely well for specific personality types. Doesn't work well for everyone. This was my personal approach, not because I actively thought about it. It's just kind of what I fell into, and it sits with my personality and generally how I do things as a person. So that was my approach, if you could consider it an approach. So once I eventually got around to thinking about my career and what direction I wanted to take it, this was the strategy that I used for my planning. It was all about opportunism, seeing opportunities as they came up and grabbing them. There are significantly more details to go into on each of those options, but for now, I hope you get the picture. So in my own career, I experienced this issue with planning firsthand. When I was working at the place I mentioned in the last lesson, I was focused on getting to the next step, which was the maintenance manager role on the site that I was working. At this point, I didn't actually really have a career plan. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have any idea really, as I hadn't put much thought into really anything I wanted out of my career. I hadn't thought about it. Thankfully, I was wise enough to keep my mind open to unexpected opportunities, even though I thought I knew what my next step would be. This is when an opportunity from left field appeared right in front of my eyes. So instead of stepping up one level to become the maintenance manager, I found my way to be offered a role as the senior maintenance manager, which was a higher level with more responsibility and a better salary. So by not being blinded by my immediate goals, I managed to find an even better opportunity in a better time frame than I had originally planned for. Now, the drawback for me in this situation is that, well, how I wasn't as good as I could have been, I was still only heavily focused on staying within the business I was in, and I wasn't looking outside of that business, which would have given me quicker and better opportunities in the long run. It's a numbers game in that sense. So this stroke of luck really set me up for the slew of quick steps up in my career that followed after this promotion. And without that, I don't think, well, I'm certain I would not be where I am today. So no plan survives first contact with the enemy. It's a pretty famous quote. And the way I interpreted that is, a plan without flexibility will almost always fail. The chances of it succeeding are so low. So the flexibility of your plan and the adaptability of you as a person are far more important than the contents of the plan you create. Having a plan helps, but really only in the sense that it gives you a direction to pursue. So this is a famous quote, the no plan survives the first contact with the enemy, which really gets to the heart of why rigid plans will ultimately fail. And for those of you that are online now, the next slide is the giveaway question. It is a multi-choice, so you don't have to know the answer. I'm not going to give you much time to answer because I don't want anyone to Google it. So it's A, B, C, D. You've got a 25% chance of getting it right if you guess. Hopefully there's a better chance than that because some of the answers, well, at least one of the answers is a bit silly. So I'm going to quickly move to the next slide, which has the question on it. And then for those of you that are online, please just type A, B, C, D, A, B, C, or D into the chat. And then after that, I'm going to check who got it right. And then at the end, we'll choose someone. If more than one person got it right, we'll figure out what we're going to do there. So you need to keep that quote in mind. No plan survives the first contact with the enemy. The question is, who is credited with the quote from the previous slide? No plan survives first contact with the enemy. Is it A, Dwight Eisenhower, B, Helmuth von Moltke, C, Winston Churchill, or D, Mike Tyson? And I'm only going to leave this up for like 5 seconds or maybe 10. So chuck your answer in the comments. And okay, I reckon that's probably enough time. I see one comment. I see 2 comments. I will just wait like an extra 5 seconds. I think the ones that I see are slightly delayed. So there we go. We've got 3. All right. Last chance. I'm about to click on to the next slide, which has the answer and some other cool information. All right. Time's up. So the German Field Marshal Helmuth von Moltke originally said, no plan of operation extends with certainty beyond the first encounter with the enemy's main strength. Now, the German Field Marshal von Moltke believed in developing a series of options for battle instead of a single plan. So today we say, we reconfigure that quote. That's the one that gets used the most. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. That's the most widely used reconfiguration of that quote. Further to this, there's some more interesting information. And Winston Churchill and Eisenhower had some very similar views. So Winston Churchill and Dwight Eisenhower had similar views, and they said plans are of little importance. Sorry, this is Churchill. Churchill said plans are of little importance, but planning is essential. And Eisenhower said plans are worthless, but planning is everything. And further to that, Eisenhower said, and this is about war, so it's a little different, but the very definition of emergency is that it is unexpected. Therefore, it is not going to happen the way that you're planning. There was further to this, there was a Prussian general and military theorist called Karl von Clausewitz. And he had a similar view, which was the enemy of a good plan is the dream of a perfect plan. He had some very similar quotes, but that idea of planning can be a problem if you spend too much time on it or you work on it instead of actually doing the work. And then the fun one at the end there is noted strategist Mike Tyson advanced this view on planning with what might be his most famous quote, which is, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. All right, so we'll move on to lesson 3. Third lesson is trying to do it all yourself, going it alone. It's just not going to work. So I made this mistake several times, time and time again. I probably still make this mistake. And I've always been the kind of person who's, I guess, good at things. And so I always thought that I could figure everything out for myself. And I was obviously wrong. So sure, maybe I did actually figure some stuff out for myself. And maybe I could have eventually figured all of the other things out through sheer trial and error and maybe a bit of cleverness thrown in. But this strategy, I guess if you could call it a strategy, that set me up for a slow and painful progression path. It simply was not the most effective way to get where I wanted to go. So today, I do have a mentor. Yes, people like me that do mentoring and coaching, we need coaches and mentors of our own, or at least we should have them, in my opinion. And I can confirm that it has massively changed the way that I do things. So having someone that you can confide in and get real, unbiased answers to your questions is by far one of the most effective ways to increase the speed of your career progression. And on that front, when I say unbiased, it's not just the fact that it is unbiased. It's the fact that you, as the recipient of that information, believe that it's unbiased. So if you receive it from a third party that has nothing to do with, say, your work or your family, like if your mum tells you something or your dad tells you or your brother tells you something, it doesn't quite hit in the same way. It doesn't sink in the same way. And if it's your boss or your boss's boss, again, there's too much, I guess it's not arm's length. There's a relationship there that colors their advice, and it colors the way that you interpret that advice. So finding someone completely separated from your day-to-day, but that has the right kind of skills, experience, and knowledge, that's the way you get the most benefit out of it. So to go it alone is to take the slowest and least predictable path to get you where you want to go. In fact, having support during the process of achieving your career goals will almost always include support in properly defining exactly what it is that you want to achieve, and more importantly, really understanding why that matters to you. So please use the years and years of wisdom stored in the people around you. It's the quickest and most efficient way to learn important lessons. But don't take advice from just anyone. It is extremely important that you seek out the right person to work with. So my view on what the key criteria are of the kind of person that will help you in the most effective way. Firstly, they've done what you want to do or something very similar to it. This means they likely learned things through bitter experience, and they can share those with you. Those experiences will help you avoid some of the pitfalls that they will no doubtedly have been through. Second criteria, you need to vibe with them. No, you need to get along with them. They need to be your kind of person. You need to get along great. You need to really enjoy the time that you spend with them and the way that you talk to each other. It needs to be a positive experience. And the third criteria, they're the type of person that can really see you. They can see past the surface level. They understand the way that you think and how to extract your innermost thoughts and feelings. Now, you're not necessarily going to get this at your first encounter, but after a few, you'll start to see what's happening, and you will see, you'll get that feeling that tells you that, yes, this person, they understand you, and they get you. They just get you. And that's also very, very important. So it may take you a while to find the right person, but when you do, it will just be clear to you. You will know. Trust me, you'll know. Trust your instincts on this one. And once you find the right person, do not hesitate. Get straight into it. One of the biggest benefits you'll get through working with someone is a greater sense of confidence. And confidence is one of the critical factors to success. And confidence gained through this avenue is much more likely to be genuine and grounded confidence, not arrogance or false confidence. Don't be afraid to work with more than one person either. It's rare to find a single person that can help you with all of your needs throughout your entire career journey. So over time, you might need a different mix of people for different stages of your career. So the lesson here is nothing great is ever accomplished alone. So look below the surface and you will find that all seemingly solo acts are really team efforts. That's a quote from John C. Maxwell, who's a US author. So get yourself a coach or a mentor or an accountability partner or something. Just get someone to talk to. Use every piece of support that is available to you to realize your career dreams. The lesson is that you should really reach out to as many people as you can. Get the support of others who have done what you want to do. Ask them about it. Be curious. We humans are social creatures by nature. So embrace your network and seek out the support that will progress you quicker. You'll be surprised how willing people are to help you if you just ask. So quick recap, and then we'll do any questions and comments. So quick recap. So hard work is not enough to get you where you want to go. Hard work is important, but it's not enough. You will need to learn how to self-promote and network effectively if you want to progress faster than most people do. Strict career plans. They will set you up for disappointment and failure. Flexible planning is the only way to go. And finally, don't try to do everything yourself. Don't do what I did. There are so many resources out there to help. Find them, use them. It genuinely makes things so much quicker and easier. You won't regret it. So I've helped my clients with flexible career planning and more. So if you're keen to explore these areas or others, you can just book a free call with the link. I put it at the start, the top of the chat, or you can just send me a DM on LinkedIn. Whatever you want to do is fine. Charlie, any general advice for getting your first foot in the door, especially for students, newly graduates? Great question. There are so many support options out there. So the first bit of advice I would say is get a clear idea of exactly what it is that you want, what type of job or which company or which group of companies you want to go to, and be very clear about what it is that you want. And try not to be extremely specific, be a little bit broad, again, for that idea of flexibility being, opportunities that come up unexpectedly. Those are the ones that you need to pounce on. So once you have an idea of what you're trying to do, and for you, Charlie, I guess once your research is finished, what I would recommend is really getting a clear idea of where it is you want to go. And then you've got multiple options to attack that. So you can find people that work at that workplace, if it's a specific workplace, and connect with them and talk to them. Ask them what it's like. Really be genuinely curious and inquisitive. And that way of connecting with people is a networking kind of piece of advice. But what it will do is it will help you build a personal relationship with multiple people that are in the areas, which will give you two benefits. The first one is that they'll tell you what it's actually like to work in that place or actually like to work that job. So you can get a better understanding of what it's like in the real world, because the real world is very different to what you get told at interviews and what you see, I guess, on LinkedIn and other places. The second benefit is that it will build your network. And once your network is larger, you can go and ask people for support. You can get introductions. If you're ever thinking about getting into defense industry or someone or something with an affiliation with defense, Charlie, just come and talk to me and I'll introduce you to the people that I know in areas that you would potentially be a good fit for. Use your existing network to the absolute maximum advantage. Other than that, you need to work on a 30-second pitch. So if you do run into someone, that you can sell yourself in 30 seconds. It needs to be not too promotional, but just promotional enough to say, here's Charlie, I'm Charlie, here's what I did, here's my research, here's how it can benefit your organization, and I know a little bit about your organization, and I've applied my research into there, and here's how I think it could benefit you. So being ready and knowledgeable to be able to put yourself out there, that's going to make you go a long way. And then just use all the other resources available to you. Like Griffith has a great program for connecting students with industry. There was an industry day last year that I supported. It was really good that you can connect up with big companies, talk to them about opportunities. Definitely worthwhile. So use everything at your disposal. Chuck me a message separately if you want. I'm happy to talk you through more detail in person or online. I will move on to the giveaway. And we only have 3 answers. Great. So that means 3 potential winners. So I will quickly go back to the slide that it was on, just so I can run through it again. So the quote was, "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." And your options were Dwight Eisenhower, Helmuth von Moltke, Winston Churchill, and Mike Tyson. And the correct answer is Helmuth von Moltke. So, Lucia, you're the only one who got it right, so you're the winner. I'll shoot you a message after this and we'll figure out what we're going to do. So, cool, congrats. Hopefully that was something you wanted, and I look forward to talking to you more. So that is the giveaway. That's the workshop. Thank you, everyone who logged on and listened. I do appreciate it. It's a Wednesday night. You might have other stuff to do. Taking your time out to listen to me talk for a while is awesome for me. I do really appreciate that. Hopefully you got something from it. Feel free to shoot me a DM after the show. Anything you want to talk about, please hit me up. Use the link in the chat if you want to connect up on video and have a chat, talk about your career. Beyond that, that's it.